23-24 summer transfer window has slammed shut, and I'm going to rank every Premier League side's performance in the window in this tier list. We have tiers best, great, good, mid, bad, rotten, and what are you doing? On the right, we have the transfermarkt.co.uk website. We're going to rank the teams on the left, try to keep it balanced, and we're going to refresh our memory on the right of all the outgoings and arrivals for each side. As always, comment down below, who do you think performed the best in the transfer window in the Premier League? Who do you think performed the worst? Also, who was your signing of the summer in the Premier League? If you liked the video, consider giving a like, and let's get right into it. Starting with Arsenal, Declan Rice, Havertz, Timber, Raya. Pretty big fees for Rice and Timber. Raya is a 3 million, euro loan, and I think it's a bit of a weird psychological move to try to, get the edge on Ramsdale. It hasn't kind of paid off yet. We'll see how that goes in Sunday's game, which is tomorrow or today, depending on when I choose to upload this. But we'll see if Raya starts or if Ramsdale starts. Timber, I think is a class signing. I think he's a good player. It's a good deal at 40 million euros. Havertz, I think, will be a straight up flop. 75 million euros, doesn't really have a position in the squad. Team looks weirder with him in it. And Declan Rice, while he's a good player, while Arsenal do need a player like that, it's a bit of an overpay, let's be honest. So this is just mid. Like, to me, it's a mid transfer window, especially when you look at, they sold Xhaka for 15. They sold Balogun for 30. These aren't necessarily big fees here. They spent their transfer records negative 167 million euros. That's not great. Aston Villa, we have Diaby, Torres, Zaniolo, Tielemans, Longley coming in. Tielemans and Longley, both relatively free transfers. I mean, Tielemans was a free, and Longley is a loan from Barca, but Zaniolo is also a loan in from Galatasaray. It's a bit of a roll of the dice. We'll see how he performs. Pau Torres is a class signing. He's, a player who's played under Emery before, won the Europa League with Emery as well, is going to slot right in and has been playing great to start the season, as well as Moussa Diaby, who is just shredding it up in the Prem. 55 million seems to be almost an underpay for him, how well he's been performing. There's only going to be a few of these teams that make it into this spot, but that's one of the best performances in the summer transfer window by any Premier League side. Next up, they also sold quickly their outgoings. Archer, Philogene, Nakamba. Not the they didn't necessarily sell any big name players. Coutinho was linked with a move away. I don't know if that ever even materialized. Doesn't seem to have. But great window. One of the best for Aston Villa. Next is Bournemouth. Tyler Adams, Traore, Scott, Kirkez, Favre, Kluivert, Aarons, Sinistera in on loan, Radu in on loan, and they also haven't had like too many departures, if we're going to be entirely honest. They only netted 1.5 million euros for the sale of Ben Pearson to Stoke, but I think this is a pretty great window. Honestly, like, while there's a lot of money spent, I think Bournemouth will stay up with this side. It might have been a little better to also sign a striker or something, but Kluivert I don't think is enough firepower, but I do think they'll still stay up because a lot of these signings are just really quality. Specifically, Kirkez, Adams. I think Aaron's a good signing. I think Scott will also provide them with some good moments. And Traore, I think he could also grow into a very exciting player at Bournemouth. So it's Bournemouth next. And we're going to put them in at good. Because, that's a lot of money to spend for a team like Bournemouth. Brentford, Nathan Collins, Kevin Schade, Mark Flecken, Neil Maupay in on loan. Obviously, David Raya getting loaned out is a big story here. I think that's a weird move, all in all, for Brentford. While I understand, wanting to fulfill Raya's dream, just sell him at that point and bring in a quality goalie. And while Flecken could be a good goalie, he's a bit older and it's a little different for your whole timeline, that you have right there. I just think it's a bit of a weird move. And I don't know how any of these players will get on. Maupe I don't rate, so I think that's just like a weird and almost bad move. Collins, um, you know, he could be good. Kevin Schade could be good. But they're all kind of could be's to me at the moment. And I'm just gonna kind of put it. I don't know. I think this is bad. Not rotten, bad. I think, knowing that you have Ivan Toney suspended for several months, I feel like you've got to kind of like, if you're bringing in somebody like a winger, Kevin Schade could be great, but I just I don't see the wow factor of this summer transfer window for Brentford. And you look at the fact that they didn't really sell anyone. If you're gonna have Raya go out on loan and you're gonna have this option to buy, I've always been the belief that it's probably better to just straight up sell in those instances, unless like you're, like, oh, this player could be good. But with Raya, it feels like he's living his dream moving to Arsenal. So it'd be weird for him to, go back to the other side of London and, play with Brentford again. That'd be kind of surreal. But next is Brighton. Brighton's biggest stories, I think, are Moise Caicedo, McAllister, and Sanchez leaving. James Milner and Dahoud came in on freeze. Another big story for Brighton is the incoming loan of Ansu Fati from Barcelona. Kind of a shock to everyone. He was linked to Tottenham, and then Brighton swooped in and they got him. Igor Julio, Bart Verbruggen, Carlos Baleba, and Joel Pedro. A lot of money. I think these players could be great for them, and we'll see how Brighton gets on. And while Brighton have had a kind of huge exodus, you in terms of like key players, Sanchez not so much, but your two starting midfielders in McAllister and Caicedo. Is that the Italian flag or the Irish flag? Italy. I didn't know he was Italian. The Irish or Scottish fans are tweaking out right now looking at this. But honestly, like, to me, they got an amazing deal for Caicedo. McAllister was a release clause, so what can you do? And Sanchez wasn't even starting, so 23 mil for him seems fair. But it's just kind of mid to me. I don't know if I could put it mid. I think I'll put it good. I can't put him like mid because they did get in Fati, and you kind of have to like applaud that because it's kind of like a bodacious move. Joel Pedro, I do think, is a great signing. He hasn't really hit the ground running in the Prem yet, but I think he'll be great. And Bart Verbruggen's a very young, very promising goalie. Yeah, they're good. They're good for now. It could kind of like come back to sort of change up on them, but as of right now, good business. Burnley, Sander Berge, Jordan Bayer, Darrow O'Shea, Trafford. It's okay. If they got Matson in, I'd put them higher. They were this close to signing Matson. It didn't materialize. So for me, I mean 107 mil, and they don't really look all that sharp. I know it'll take some time for them to like settle in, but I'm gonna say this is mid. They just don't look that great. Chelsea. I've spoke at length about Chelsea. They obviously stole both Moise Caicedo and Romeo Lavia from Liverpool. Moise is starting out like right center mid or left center mid sometimes, and Romeo Lavia is starting right stand or left stand, depending on where he's sitting next to Todd Bowley in the stands. I don't know why he hasn't been in the team yet. That's just so weird to me. Nkunku, I think, is a great signing, honestly, but the injury is rough. Cole Palmer is an interesting one. Maybe a bit of an overpay for someone who's only got 3 Premier League starts. Disasi, I think, is a good signing, like really good. I think he's a very promising player. Nicholas Jackson also looks promising and could be a really great talent for them. Then Ugochukwu, Sanchez, Washington, Petrovic, Angelo. just an absolute mass amount of like players that just are never gonna start or very rarely start. I mean, I know Sanchez is a starting goalie, but these other guys definitely not starting. Even like Lavia's not starting, so why are these other guys gonna start? Lewis Hall came back from loan, Matson back from loan, Colwell back from loan, who they extended. But then they also had a massive exodus. Havertz, Mount, Kovacic, Koulibaly, Pulisic, Mendy, Loftus-Cheek, Ampadu, Lukaku, Hudson Odoi, Arrizabalaga, Aspilicueta on a free, Aubameyang on a free, Conte on a free, um, Hall on loan to Newcastle. Just crazy amounts of activity for Chelsea. They had a ridiculous amount of expenditure, still in the almost 200 negative 200 mil transfer record for the window, and it's just like one of those things where I start to become concerned for Chelsea. Moise Caicedo hasn't looked the best to start. Romeo Lavia has yet to feature. And then everyone else is kind of like a question mark. This is one of those points in time where if you were a Chelsea fan, I'm clearly not, but if you were a Chelsea fan, I would be absolutely petrified. Like I would be living in fear day to day as to what is happening to my club, because Chelsea aren't in like the best of positions right now after 4 league games. Obviously, there's a long season ahead, but it just looks just kind of terrible for them, you know. And if they don't, you know, say come January, they haven't, you know, gotten what they need to get together to like start performing. What happens in the January window? Do you spend another 100 to 200 mil? And then what happens if you don't qualify at the end of the season off of that window? So Chelsea goes into what are you doing? Because I don't know. There's some moves in there like Nkunku or Palmer or Jackson or even Disasi that I'm like, okay, those are good. But then the bigger moves are like gargantuan and there's like a lot of pressure and it's a weird fit. And I just don't know how they'll get on. But so that's why there's like there's some okay pieces to Chelsea's transfer window, but based on the fees, based on the direction the club's heading in, I can't necessarily say that like all these moves are rotten, but I'm really just confused as to what they're doing. Moving forward to Crystal Palace, Mateus Franca, Dean Henderson, Rob Holding, Jefferson Lerma. Lerma was a free specifically. That's something I'd like to point out. Zaha left on a free, Guaita on a free. He also left. Butland left on a free, and so did Milivojevic, who also went to Shabab Al Ahli in Dubai. Interesting, because there's an Al Shabab in Saudi Arabia and an Al Ahli, but this is FC Shabab Al Ahli Dubai. Interesting. So he went to play in Dubai. Kind of a crazy move for him, but I don't know. Zaha was their like talisman, you know, and losing him on a free is something that was inevitable, but you know, you kind of have to replace him. Franca could be good. It's a bit of a dice roll, but who knows? And then Dean Henderson, I think he'll perform well. I think this is just bad business. I don't know. It's mid. We'll put them mid. We'll put Crystal Palace mid because like Lerma's, I think, a solid signing. He's Premier League experience. He's a decent DM. Franca is a dice roll, like I said. And Henderson, I think, will win them points. But Holding's kind of like a question mark. And you didn't really directly replace Zaha, which I think you could have done for probably somewhere in the ballpark of like 30 to 40 mil. And being that they also they didn't sell anyone, that they didn't actually generate any revenue in outgoings. That's a lost opportunity. That's bad from Palace. Everton, Beto, Chermetti, Danjuma, Ashley Young in on a free, Jack Harrison in on loan, and then like some other players. Moise Keane was sold, Iwobi was sold, Cannon was sold, Sims was sold. They made a profit in the market, but I just feel like a lot of these moves are so random. Like I just don't know what they're getting at here. Just kind of bad all in all. And I mean, sure, you made a profit, but you lost to Iwobi, who I thought was one of their better players over the last few seasons. Moise Keane was He's not necessarily he wasn't starting for Everton. He was out on loan at Juventus the season before, but you know, you losing him kind of hurts. And then Sims was another like young potential striker, and then you bring in just some random players who could, they could perform well, but being that Danjuma, didn't want to join them in January, now he's there and just kind of feels, I don't know, a little boring. So I'm gonna give Everton a rotten. I don't really rate their window whatsoever. They also got rid of a lot of long serving players, which you could say was probably um, worth it. But you're loaning out like Mason Holgate and stuff, and just losing a lot of pieces all in all. Next is Fulham: Iwobi, Bassi, Castagna, Jimenez, Benda, Adama Traore, and on a free, and Baldo Toure or Balo Toure. Mitrovic was their only like actual value generating sale. Everyone else was either a free or a loan. Mbwabu was loaned out. Um, Joe Bryan was loaned out, or actually not loaned out. He left on a free. Uh, I think that this transfer window is good for Fulham actually. Bassi I think is pretty underrated. I've seen him play for Ajax a few times. He was at Rangers beforehand, if I'm not mistaken, and now he's at Fulham, and that's a good signing. I think Timothy Castagna is a good signing as well, versatile fullback. Jimenez is a bit underwhelming, but Traore is a good signing on a free, and you're kind of like developing a squad there where, yeah, you don't have Mitrovic anymore, but I think they can carry their weight enough, and they have some good hardworking players. So I'm gonna put them at good. They had a good window. They or mid. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. This is where I'm split because they sold Mitrovic sure for 28 mil or at 28 years old for 52 million euros. But you look at the players they brought in, and I feel like they are a bit more solid of a side as a result. It's they're less of a relegation threat than they may have been without just selling Mitrovic. I think there's some decent moves in there, so we'll put them at good. We'll leave them there. Liverpool, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch, Wataru Endo, and then the departures were big as well. Fabinho, Henderson, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita, Milner, Firmino, and then Carvalho, Phillips, Van den Berg, Ramsey, and Reece Williams on loan. And Arthur Melo, the legend of Liverpool, has also left the club after his loan concluded. I'm looking at this, and I am a Liverpool fan, and I'm not going to say that we had one of the best windows. There is some flaws here. Liverpool still probably could have signed another DM. I know Klopp didn't want to bring us in another specialist DM, but just for rotation's sake, you got a 30-year-old DM in Wataru Endo. You have someone like Bajcetic who's a lot younger at like 18, 19, 20. And it would just be nice if Liverpool had any sort just bring in some random English player who's like 24 to 26 who could play DM and could play in the cups and come in with 15 minutes to spare against Burnley. I know Wataru Endo will do that at times, but I don't know. It's just kind of a little much. I think to not go for one, as well as not going for a proper center back and a right back. I think a DM, a center back, and a right back would put this at great. There was a lot of departures. Fabinho for 46 was, decent money. Probably could have gotten more for Henderson, but he wanted to go. And then the sales aren't that great, but I do think that the players that Liverpool has brought in terms of the need for the club needed to go through something like this. I'm gonna say it's great. I think that Szoboszlai is a contender for signing of the summer. I think McAllister is like ahead of him in that pecking order in terms of signing of the summer, comparing like McAllister and Szoboszlai. Gravenberch, I think he'll be an interesting fit for Liverpool. I know he didn't feature a lot for Bayern last year. I think Wataru Endo is from what I've seen so far, he's been pretty like solid all around. I know people are like, "Oh, what's he gonna do?" I think like I like him as a signing. Like I'm happy he's in the squad now that he's at the club. So I'm gonna put Liverpool at great. Next is Luton. Ryan Giles, Tahit Chong, Mads Anderson, Jacob Brown, Kaminsky, Nakamba, Ross Barkley, Krul. I mean, man, McAtee. They spent 22 million euros, almost 23. And not a single one of these players shouts Premier League standard. Maybe Issa Kabore from Man City and on loan, but that's just because he's a City Academy prospect, and even then, I don't think it's that convincing. I think this is rotten business from Luton. Um, Sambi Lokonga and Kabore, like, does this whole kind of like list here of players shift the needle at all? No. Man City. Joško Gvardiol, 90 mil. Nunez, 62. Doku, 60. Kovacic, 29. And then you look at the sales. Palmer for 47. Mahrez for 35. Laporte for 27. Herrera for 5. Gundogan left. Cancelo out on loan. I mean, it's okay, right? Like, I don't know. It's fine. I think a couple moves that need to be pointed out. I think Joško Gvardiol is a contender for signing in the summer. He's just quality for them, provides a lot of versatility. Nunez, 62 mil. We'll see how he gets on. I think he could be a great player for them, but who knows? Doku, I think, is an absolute roll of the dice. He could be great, but I don't think he's like, it's gonna take a lot for him to like replace Mahrez effectively. So that move will always kind of be clouded by that judgment. And Kovacic, I just think isn't like it. Like he's looked okay for them, but it's just like I don't know. You know what? Actually, I'm unfairly slating City here because while they have gotten rid of say Gundogan or Mahrez or Laporte, players that have been at the club for a very long time. Even Cole Palmer, up and coming prospect for them. While that's all happened, I just kind of feel like you can't not give them best, like and put them in that conversation. Like they're easily one of the best performing teams in the transfer market because they've gotten a refreshed squad. They just battered Fulham 5-1, and it just looks like everything's going to work. It doesn't matter the feed, doesn't matter the fit of the player. Things will just fall into place for City because they're well run and Pep has gotten who he wants seemingly. Manchester United, Rasmus Højlund, Mason Mount, Onana, Amrabat. I mean, I listen. They got in Reguilon in on loan as well. Johnny Evans, free transfer. Alonga left, Henderson left, Fred left. Kovar left, Tellez left, Iqbal left. 155 negative 155 mil. Wow. Okay. Straight off the bat, I obviously am a Liverpool fan, but this brother, Onana, good signing, but wait a minute, he's not like that old. He's 27, but Onana's a decent signing. He still has to kind of like adjust to the Premier League, but I don't know. He seems like he has a howler in him or two still. Mount is another contender for potential flop signing of the season. Højlund as well is way up high on that list for me. Amrabat in on loan I think is a good signing. Reguilon's weird. I know they need cover at left back, but I don't rate Reguilon like that. I'm just, and then like the outgoings weren't all that like lucrative for them, so I'm gonna give them mid. It's mid from United. Newcastle United, Tonali, Barnes, Livermento, Minta. St. Maximin leaving is a big one. That Lewis Hall's in for them as well. Uh, I'm just gonna say it. This is bad business from Newcastle. It's not rotten, but it's bad. The reason it's bad is because Tonali, quality signing, like one of the signings of the summer potentially. But you watch him today in that game against Brighton, it wasn't that great. Like seeing him play because they lack the proper pieces around players like Tonali to get the best out of them. Harvey Barnes is not Champions League level. Tino Livramento is not Champions League level. Neither is Yankuba Minte. Maybe he could be one day, but he's 18. Tonali obviously is, but none of these guys are. St. Maximin would have been, but he has left the club to go and play for Al Ahly, which is fine, but considering the absolute astronomical fees that were paid, to too many clubs around the Premier League for the likes of, their players, 27 mil. I know that the Saudis own Newcastle, but that's just kind of like a bad deal. It's just bad. Nottingham Forest, Sankare, 35 mil. Alanga, 17.5. Wood, 17. Murillo in for 12. Dominguez in for 10. Vladimos in for 9. Matt Turner in for 8. Hudson Odoi in for 3. Tavares in on loan. Origi in on loan. Montiel in on loan. Andre Santos in on loan. Aina in on loan. I mean, everyone was saying they weren't spending this summer, and then they just went and did it. Brennan Johnson did leave for 55 mil. It's a good deal for him, honestly. Like, he could be a great player for Spurs, but it's as in terms of him, being sold, getting 55 mil is great. Sam Surridge also left, and so did Brian Oyeda. And you look at the kind of general expenditure, and 61 mil for all these players is kind of crazy. Like, the fact that they brought in all these guys, I think this is great business from Nottingham. Honestly, oh, that's a white background on them. That's weird. I think it's great business. And I know people will be like, oh, well, they're not going to do great. But if they can manage to stay up off 60 mil, the squad that they'll have is going to be absolutely thumping. So credit to them. I think they did good. Sheffield United, Cameron Archer, Gustavo Hamer, Vinny Souza, Austin Trusty. Some good young pieces here for them. They have lost Iliman Ndiaye and Sander Berg and Billy Sharp and Edna Stevens to all sorts of different clubs. They only spent 33 mil and they got a decent spread of players. Honestly, like, Cameron Archer is a promising player, and to get an English international for 21 mil, I know he hasn't played a lot, but that's pretty good. Gustavo Hamer, I was impressed by in the championship. He scored a wonder goal for Sheffield already. I'm gonna have to put them at great, I think. I think that there's some, you sold Star Striker. Well, I don't know if I could. What am I talking about? Putting them great. I have to reshuffle this list. I'm gonna put them at good, or even lower. I'll put. Hold up. We'll adjust this. We'll leave them at good for now. They have some young players they brought in. We'll fix the list at the end to make sure it's the way we want it. Next up is Tottenham. Brennan Johnson, James Madison, Pedro Porro, Mickey Van de Ven, Dan Kulishevsky's completed. Why is the fee being paid now? Weird, but Vicario, Velez, and Ashley Phillips. And then you look at also Solomon, free transfer. Wow, I didn't know he was a free transfer. That's crazy. Harry Kane, Harry Winks, Jed Spence out on loan, Mora free transfer, Regalon out on loan, Tangaga also out on loan, and Rodon out on loan. they sold Harry Kane for 100 mil and spent like 130. And I'm looking at it. Madison is another one of like the potential signings of the summer. I'm hard pressed to include Kulishevsky in this list for like the summer. I don't know. It's just kind of weird because like he's been at the club for a while now. It feels like um, Van de Ven, Porro, Madison. Uh, if we're counting all these players, like I would remove Kulishevsky and Pedro Porro because they were loaned in last season or the season before. But Madison is one of the signings of the summer. Brendan Johnson's a quality player, but who knows how great he'll be. Um, Honestly, I think this is good business by Tottenham. Uh, Decent business. We'll adjust the list once again. West Ham's up next. Mohamed Kudus, Edson Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse, and Konstantinos Mavropanos. They sold Declan Rice. That was the biggest news of the whole summer, basically, for them. And they also sold Skamaka, Vlasic, and Masuaku. Lanzini left on a free to River Plate. And at the time, before they started signing people, I was like, all right, like, they're done for. They need to invest this money. They haven't invested money at all. They made a profit still. And you look at that midfield rebuild, Kudus, Alvarez, Prowse. Wow. What a midfield that is for West Ham. Off of selling Declan Rice, who, mind you, one guy is a year older and fills a very similar niche to him, that being Edson Alvarez. Mohamed Kudus is a player who looked absolutely electric at Ajax. And you got an Ajax duo in playing for West Ham. And then James Ward-Prowse is a set-piece specialist, captain for Southampton, and a very underrated quality center mid in the Premier League. Mavropanos, whatever, But this is some of the best business in the summer transfer window. Some of my favorite by any club. And I just got to applaud West Ham for the business they did this season. Next up, we have Wolves. Cunha in for 50. Bellegarde in for 10 or 15 rather. Santiago Bueno in. Boubacar Traore. Enzo Gonzalez. Don't know like almost any of these guys. They got rid of Mateus Nunes for 62. Ruben Neves for 55. Nathan Collins for 26. Cody, Jimenez, Ryan Giles. Tons of players just left. A mass exodus from Wolves. Even players on a free like João Montinha or Adama Traore. They loaned out quite a few too. They made 73 mil in profit. But at what cost? Because this ain't good enough for Wolves. And I'd have to question, what are you doing? Cunha looks like a class player. I think he'll be great. Everyone else, God knows. They brought in Matt Doherty back to the club on a free. Like, what are you doing, Wolves? So now let me just go full screen here. Here's my list as it stands. Aston Villa, City, West Ham at the top. Then we have Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, and Bournemouth. I was going to say Brentford. Let me just adjust this really quickly because one team's got to go down to rotten. And I think that team has to be, might be like, I could put United down there for laughs, but it probably have to be a team from good, like either a team from one of these and then shuffling people up. So someone in here will go to rotten. And honestly, I think it's going to have to be Brentford just for the fact that they sold or they got rid of Raya on loan. Just kind of a weird move by them. And then here we have someone who's got to come into bad. I think it's going to have to be Burnley. They just didn't bring in enough like quality players. There's some young players there, but like company, you need Premier League quality players, and they didn't get that. Now someone's got to go from good to mid. It's probably going to have to be them, right? Sheffield, sorry. But that is my list. That is the concrete and total list at this point for my best performing teams in the summer transfer market for the 23-24 Premier League campaign. Once again, comment down below. Let me know who you think the best performing team in this summer transfer window was in the Premier League. Let me know who you think the worst performing team in this summer transfer window for the Premier League was as well. And let me know who you think the summer signing of the window was in the Premier League. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you enjoyed, and if you made it this far already, why don't you consider subscribing to the Sideline Sedo YouTube channel for all your Premier League, transfer, and general football content needs right here on the Sideline Sedo YouTube channel. Thank you so much for everyone who's made it this far and watched the video. Thank you for everyone who's already subscribed and anyone who continues to subscribe. I'm Sideline Sedo. Thanks for watching. Peace.